these. These right here are one of the biggest reasons I'm going to be so sad to send this back to MSI.
3, 2, 1.
The handheld PC gaming market is booming right now, giving players more choice than ever, but it's also making it harder for new devices to stand out. Occasionally though, a device comes along that demands attention, and after spending a week with MSI's new portable gaming PC, I'm pretty intrigued by the Claw. Now, before we get started, this isn't a review. This is just a high-level overview of the MSI Claw after spending basically a week with it, and we won't be getting into any performance benchmarks or anything like that. These are just some of my first impressions with the device, but hopefully you'll get a good idea of what it has to offer. One thing you'll notice immediately is how compact the device is, and considering that you're going to be holding it for hours at a time, how it feels in your hand could be make or break. And one problem I've had with other devices, especially handhelds, is how cramped they can feel at times, having the buttons or the thumbsticks a little bit too close to the edge. I just haven't found many of them comfortable to hold. The Claw's name, though, wasn't just for marketing purposes. MSI has clearly spent a lot of time thinking about how to make it as comfortable as possible. All of your fingers naturally fall on the triggers and buttons without needing to stretch, and that's largely thanks to the sharp angles and pronounced back grips on the device. If there's anything else that immediately stands out, it's the fact that the Claw has vents galore. Seriously, this thing is not messing around when it comes to cooling. The entire back is almost entirely made up of them. Now, the fans aren't silent, but anyone who's used a similar device can tell you that sometimes they do kind of sound like a jet engine on some of these devices. Thankfully here, when using the 15-watt performance mode, it is perfect for midnight in-bed gaming. So all of my fellow nighttime gamers, it's a good fit. And the click of the buttons can be even worse than the fan noise sometimes. So thankfully the Claw's buttons are both tactile and sonically satisfying without requiring everyone around you to wear headphones. And a special mention should go to the back paddles for having the perfect level of pressure and feedback. Seriously, I've swapped a bunch of my macros and inputs to the back paddles just to get to use them more, because listen to this. Now, arguably the most important part of any gamepad are the thumbsticks and the triggers. And in the case of the Claw, well, let's just say that there's more to them than meets the eye. And if you're really curious, you can skip ahead to the timestamp that I put up on screen here. You'll find out why I'm such a fan and why the Claw will probably outlive most of your other devices. Of course, a solid design is great, but if the games don't play well on the device, it's all for naught. So it's a good thing then that the Claw has plenty of power. Running Windows with Intel Arc graphics and an Intel Core Ultra processor, the Claw is packing some serious handheld heat. Add on PCIe Gen 4 M2 SSD storage and 16GB LPDDR5 memory, and you've got a device that can power almost any game without too much of a compromise. And that's always the thing with handhelds, right? Compromise. You're always trading something for performance. Battery life, weight, resolution, form factor, operating system, any number of factors. But MSI's handheld has done a really good job of bringing that complete experience to a portable in a way that I haven't seen on many devices so far. During my time with the Claw, I have played a rotation of games. Some are games that I play on every single device to kind of have a benchmark of what I can expect, and others, frankly, I'm just addicted to right now, such as Helldivers 2. So I tried out Stranding, Persona 3 Reload, a whole bunch, and I think one thing that really caught me off guard was how well the battery stood up even when I was playing graphically intensive games. Now, MSI told us that the Claw can last up to 50% longer than the average handheld gaming PC, and while I didn't measure that specifically, I will say that it did lead to impressively long play sessions. One other thing that I think is an important decision to make when you're purchasing a handheld is to decide whether you want to go with a Linux-based or Windows-based machine. And in this case, I'm very glad they went Windows-based so that I can have my entire library in one place. Not being limited to Steam means that I can play all of those games I've been picking up for free from Epic Games over the years, or better yet, the most recent releases on Game Pass. And those can be downloaded directly to the Claw instead of needing to play them over the cloud, as you do with Linux-based handhelds. So Persona 3 Reload is a perfect handheld game, for example, especially when you need a shorter session or to wind down after a long day, but requiring a connection to play takes that aspect of a handheld away, meaning that you can't take it on the go. And with the Claw, that just wasn't the case. All of my games natively on the system. Now, it's going to be hard to show off just by holding it up here, so I'll make sure we have some B-roll, but the Claw's 7-inch screen looks great. It's an IPS panel that delivers 120Hz performance with a 1920 by 1200p resolution, and it looks really sharp. And having the ability to actually play at 120 frames per second on a handheld is brilliant. There aren't many games that you can maybe get up to that in the 3D space in terms of really modern games, but it's a nice option to have. Now, when MSI sent us the Claw, they highlighted some of the key features, but one area that I felt they actually didn't talk about nearly enough was its secret weapon, the Hall effect triggers and thumbsticks. Unlike with traditional thumbsticks and switches that use physical contact to register inputs, Hall effect thumbsticks use magnets, so not only will they last much longer because there's not friction wearing them down over time, they also won't fall victim to things like stick drift, which of course has been plaguing a lot of gamepads recently. Now, MSI are not the first ones to ever use Hall effect sticks. That's not the case. But what I will say is MSI are doing it right. I wish that other companies would follow suit to use them in the first place, and that they would feel this good. One of the problems that I've had with other Hall effect sticks in the past is that they feel weightless, like there's no resistance. You move them and they immediately just fall to the side. With the Claw, that's not a problem. You're still able to make nuanced moves because it feels like you're gliding to the position you want to go to. And with the triggers, they have a nice analog feel to them that honestly rivals a lot of full-sized gamepads. So, that brings us to the end of my preview. Now, I've only had a week with this device, and these are just my first impressions. But what I can say is I really don't want to send this back to MSI. From the lightweight design that makes it so that I don't hate myself after, I don't know, like a 6-hour run on Baldur's Gate 3, to the clean interface that makes it very easy to swap settings. There's a lot here to love that I didn't actually get to. But most importantly of all, it's comfortable, it feels great to play on, and the games actually just run really well. So if you want to learn more about the MSI Claw, head over to MSI's official site, which I'll link down in the description below, or MobileSyrup.com.